The first thing you need to know about my teacher Mr. Chu is that although he used to be a were hyena, a whole another story is another of the best teachers of at Monterosa Elementary. The second thing to know is when he teaches a subject, he really gets into it. So I guess I shouldn't have been surprised when Bunny and I returned from lunch to find that our entire classroom had transformed into an ancient Greek temple, with fake pillars and all. Mr. Chu stood at the front of the room, wrapped in a white bedsheet. A wreath of green leaves perched on his bald head. "Welcome, citizens," he bellowed, strumming some kind of horseshoe-shaped harp. "Citizens of Crazyville," muttered Tyler Spock, taking this seat. But I could tell that even the class joke was impressed by Mr. Chu's nutty getup. May the muses inspire our learning, and may the gods smile down upon us. Our teacher wailed on his funky-looking harp like some ancient Greek rock star. Then he struck a pose. I sing of the immortal Greek heroes of mighty Hercules and clever Theseus. For today we study ancient Greece. Quick question: who knows what tree the Greek civilization was founded upon? Hans shot up. "The redwood," said Big Pete, who'd been amazed by the giant trees on his family's trip to Sequoia National Park. Mr. Chu smacked his forehead with the back of his hand. "Alas," he wailed, "that is incorrect. The gods weep." Amorita's upraised arm whipped back and forth like a palm tree in a hurricane. I knew she'd have the right answer, but we didn't get to hear it that day. Just then our classmate Jose burst into the room, eyes wild, clothes rumpled, and hair sticking up at funny angles. "Take a seat, citizen," and Mr. Chu began. But Jose acted like he hadn't heard a word. He staggered across the front of the classroom, gripping his hair into two fists. I suddenly understood how he'd gotten his new hairstyle. "Oh, beware," he wailed. Jose's jittery eyes looked at everyone and no one. "They are here among us." Kids laughed uncertainly. Was he joking? "Zip it, weirdo," told Tyler Spock. "Yeah, zip it good," echoed his sidekick Big Pete. "Jose," said Mr. Chu, suddenly serious. Jose ignored all three of them. Clawing at the front of his t-shirt, he moaned, "The horror, oh the horror." A chill dripped like ice water down my back. Ever since Benny and I had rescued Mr. Chu from his fate as a hyena, he found more than our share of horror, real horror in Monterosa, and after tackling the mutant mantis lunch ladies, the two of us had even developed kind of underground reputation as monster hunters. This was a cool yes, but it also tended to land us in situations that risked life and limb, which was not so cool. Benny half rose from his seat. "What horror?" he asked Jose. "What is it?" Our classmate's unseeing eyes brimmed with tears. Everyone sank back to bellies. His voice quavered. "I'm all alone, so alone." Stepping to Jose's side, Mr. Chu wrapped an arm around his shoulders. "What's wrong? Has something happened to your family?" "Gone, all gone." Jose shook his head over and over, his voice cracking. Mr. Chu guided our classmate towards his seat. "There now, just—" Throwing off our teacher's arm, Jose vaulted onto Cheyenne's That's in one bound. Pretty impressive for a guy with no gymnastics training. He shielded his head as if expecting vampire bats to burst from the ceiling. The monsters, he teamed. They're here. Monsters, I thought, not again. Everyone flinched, staring at the ceiling tiles. And with that, Jose gave a low moan, swayed and crumpled like a wall poster when the masking tape leaves out. "Catch him!" cried Tina Green. Cheyenne squealed, but Mr. Chu snagged Jose before he could squash her. Cradling our classmate in his arms, he carried him back down the aisle and laid him gently on the floor beside the funky harp. "Is he dead?" asked Big Pete, jumping to his feet. "'Cause I've never seen a dead guy. That would be cruel." Mr. Chu scowled. "You'll have to check that off your bucket list another time. He's not dead, just unconscious." Everybody crowded around, offering advice and trying to help. Jose lay still, his face slack. "Raise his feet," said AJ. "That's what you do for shock." "No, raise his head," said Gabby. "Bundle him up," said Bunny. "Give him air," said Tina. "Everyone take your seats." Mr. Chu tucked his sport coat off the back of his chair, folded it up, and slipped it under Jose's head. "Amarita, go get the nurse." She spun and dashed out the door. "What is it?" I asked. "What's wrong with him?" Mr. Chu motioned for us to back away from Jose. "Too much sun," he said. "Probably got heat stroke and fainted." "Everyone sit down." I glanced out the window at the overcast skies. "Heat stroke?" said Bunny. "In December?" "More like monster stroke," I whispered. Bunny nodded grimly. Despite Mr. Chu's effort to awaken Jose, our classmate was out cold. He didn't even respond to a wet towel on his forehead. And when Miss Kropek, the school nurse, showed up, her smelling salt had no effect. Jose was hibernating harder than a groundhog in December. Before we knew it, Mrs. Kropek had carried Jose to her office and phoned his parents. Mr. Chu resumed talking about the heroes and legends of ancient Greece. Odysseus fought in the Trojan War, then tried to sail home with his men, our teacher said. But he had the worst luck. He kept running into monsters at uh, every turn. Mr. Chu clutched the front of his bedsheet, tottered, and stared out the window with haunted expression. The pause stretched. "And," said Tyler, "don't stop at the good part." Mr. Chu blinked. "Oh, most fearsome of these monsters was the one-eyed giant Cyclops." Was he remembering his own personal monster mania? He gave a little shudder, and moment passed and he went on his talk. Class seemed to be back in normal. I was sure as I knew that a dish called chef's surprise is always a surprise, but never a good one. That normal was a long ways off. Something was wrong at Monterosa Elementary again, and if the past was any indication, Benny and I would have to put it right.